Hey guys, Ultra Gamer here, and today guys, I'm going to be doing a quick video by myself on saying if the House of Wolves DLC lived up to its name. Now I love the House of Wolves DLC, and I personally prefer to the Dark Below, but I do love the Dark Below, but it has its pros and cons. And speaking of the pros and cons, let's speak of the pros and cons. Now the pros of the House of Wolves, well, the main pro is the ascending. I feel like they did really well with the ascending. It's so fun to have the old guns brought, like the Vision of Confluence, Vex Mythoclast, well, not old, but guns from like Vault of Glass, just being able to be brought back, and other raid weapons like Black Hammer or the Hunger of Crota. That is so much fun, and it really is a great thing that the House of Wolves DLC added in. Another thing that they did well was exotic armor pieces. I feel like they did really well with those. For instance, the Celestial Nighthawk for the Hunter. It's such a fun armor piece to use, because its special perk, instead of you having 3 golden gun shots, you have 1 which does 6 times damage. That's amazing. You hit that shot and you can do incredible amounts of damage. And if you do precision damage with it, it's mind-blowing how much you can do with that with 1 shot. And they've also added in other ones like the Ram, which is armor is really handy for things like Trials of Osiris, and the Eternal Warrior, and the Bones of Ieo. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it's the best I can do. Now, what the Bones of Ieo, or whatever they are called, does is it adds an extra jump to your double jump, turn it to a triple jump, or makes your triple jump a quadruple jump. Now this is so handy for hunters, as they're the only class that don't have a glide, making it so much easier to get to high spots and make long jumps. It's just such a cool exotic, and it's really fun to have. I haven't been able to obtain this yet, but a lot of people say it's incredibly fun. And the final pro is the exotic weapons. Now the exotic weapons are, well, all 3 of them you can only get from Prison of Elders, the Elder Cipher, which I kind of like. It's an exotic bounty again, but I kind of wish there was a little more RNG exotics, but we'll talk about that later. And these weapons are really fun. For instance, the Queen's Breaker Bow is such a cool cross between weapons. Like the Vex Mythoclast was a cross between a fusion rifle and an auto rifle, but this is a cross between a fusion rifle and a sniper rifle. It's such an odd combination, because fusion rifles are a very up-close weapon, and sniper rifles are made for long distances. But yet, I still feel that the Queen's Breaker Bow suits both really well. It's so fun to use. I love this weapon. It's one of my favorite exotics in the game, and a lot of people really like it. And another exotic is the Lord of Wolves shotgun. Now, I talked about this in a podcast with Bloomberg123. There will be a link to his channel in the description below, and you will see the podcast on what we said about it. But they changed the perks on it a bit, but still a really fun shotgun to use, as it's a 5-round burst shotgun. It has a fast enough reload speed, and it's just a fun weapon. It's a good weapon. It's good in PvP. It's good enough in PvE, and it's all around enjoyable to use. Now the final exotic weapon, I'd say the only one of all of them that's not great, is the Dreg's Promise. Now this is one of 2 sidearms in the whole game, and it's just not as good to use. A lot of people may even say the Vestian Dynasty is a bit better, but the main reason that a lot of people don't like it, and the main reason that I don't like it, is because they didn't add in enough for the sidearm class to make it usable. They only added in 2 weapons, one legendary and one exotic, which really let me down. It was massive. They said there's this new weapon type altogether. It's going to be so cool. It's like nearly a hand cannon for your secondary that shoots faster, has more bullets, does a little less damage. Felt a lot like more pistols from other games like Call of Duty, but the class really let me down. And now, let's get on to the cons. Now, the cons of House of Wolves. There's less of them, but they're still there. And one of them is, a lot of people will not like me for this, but I will have to say the Prison of Elders instead of a raid. I understand what they were doing with it, a break from the usual difference, but it was a bit early. We've only had 2 raids. I would have thought they might have done after 3 or 4, but they did the way they did it. And it's fun for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then begins to get boring. Now, some people love this, and some people will hate me for saying this, but this is my opinion, and a lot of people think this as well. But the Prison of Elders just isn't as good as a raid. It's this new horde mode that is fun at times, but just gets tedious at sometimes. Sometimes I just skip a 32 or a 34 Prison of Elders because I'm just bored of it. It annoys me how much they hyped this up and how much of a letdown it was. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel about it. Now, the other con for House of Wolves is the sidearms. I talked about this a little earlier, but now I'm going to get a little bit more in depth to it. The sidearms are a pistol secondary weapon that does decent amount of damage, but there is only 2 of them in the game. This is quite disappointing, as when I saw it at first, the Vestian Dynasty, I thought it would be incredible and lots of fun to use. Now, I'm not saying that the Vestian Dynasty and the Dreg's Promise aren't fun to use, but there isn't enough of them to do anything with it. The Vestian Dynasty was okay, I guess. It was a good weapon. It's kinda not as good as some weapons like shotguns or sniper rifles or even fusion rifles at times. And the Dreg's Promise is a bit of a waste of an exotic weapon slot. Some people may even say the Vestian Dynasty is better, but that's not me personally. It's just so much of a letdown. I was so looking forward to the sidearms, and it was so much of a letdown that it ruined quite a bit of House of Wolves for me. And the final con is the Queen's weapons. And I'm not talking about the Prison of Elders weapons that you can get from Valix. I'm talking about the ones that you get in the actual Prison of Elders from the chest. This was a letdown. I've said a letdown a lot, but these weapons just weren't as good as they could have been. They were meant to be kind of like the new raid weapons almost, I'd say, but they just weren't as good. There's her Mercy, the hand cannon, which is an okay weapon, I guess, and her Courtesy, the shotgun, which is a good enough weapon, but the others were a bit of a letdown. Some of them were good enough, but they could have been a lot better. They could have had a lot more unique perks. It's just sad to see such a chance wasted by Bungie. And now the final part of this video, guys. In my mind, did House of Wolves live up to its name? I feel like it did. It added so many fun things, although it did have its bad moments. It added so many fun things, brought back so many fun guns, that I loved the DLC. I truly enjoyed playing it. That's my personal opinion. Some people might not like it, but I feel like most do. So, I really do love the House of Wolves. That's the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. And peace out to all you Ultra Gamers. Bye.